Hi hand readers. Today the topic is clubbed thumbs, so-called murderer's thumbs, stub thumbs, potted thumbs, many other names given to a thumb that has a stumpish ending. It doesn't have a proper shaped tip. And this has got seriously bad press in the whole palmistic tradition. And we're going to be exploring that in today's conversation. Of course, we all know that thumbs being set in opposition to our fingers enable us to use tools and sets us apart from the animal kingdom. But in the chirological system, in the five element system, we ascribe to them the element, the fifth element, which is the God consciousness element, which has to do with the chi element. And this is what sets us apart from the animal kingdom. It gives us consciousness, it gives us an awareness that is lacking in animals. So it's all about the I am, and therefore it is very important to hand readers, as you look at a set of hands, to see the relative strength or weakness of a set of thumbs. Isn't it incredible that this digit has at least 10 criteria that we can assess as a hand reader, that is, to determine the relative strength or weakness of the thumb? So there are a conglomerate of features that need to be cross-referenced. And as with all hand reading, we have to keep cross-referencing, and never more importantly than when you come across a person who has a so-called clubbed thumb. When we look at thumbs, we read three different traits of being. Specifically, I want represented in the base of the thumb, the ball of the thumb, the Mount Venus, which has some bearing on the desire nature of the person. The I can, which in the old traditional palmistry relates to so-called logic and reason, and in the five element system is governed by water. It represents a capacity that we have. We look at that phalange. And then the tip represents the I will, the fire energy of the person, the intention, the volition, the actual directive of the person as they go through their lives. So we consider the various shapes, forms of those three criteria as a backdrop. Again, we have the base, which is governed by earth in our five element system. We have the first phalange, which is governed by water, the tip governed by fire, and in identifying the various criteria and applying their meanings when it comes to thumbs, we build on these fundamental concepts. Now we come to the so-called clubbed thumb and how to read the clubbed thumb in relation to the rest of the hand, and in fact to the rest of the thumb, as well as to the glyph, the dermatoglyphic on the tip of the thumb. And all of these criteria, as I mentioned, make a difference to the interpretation. But of course, in palmistry, you might have known or heard how this feature in the set of hands has got this terribly bad press. As you can see in this image, looks like it has a compressed and fleshy tip, usually quite bulbous in the actual flesh underneath the nail, and a rather wide and narrow looking nail. And in medical terminology, it's called bractyly type D or BBD. It's a minor medical anomaly. And the bone, as you can see now in this image, is shortened. So this is what causes this particular feature. Question is why it is that this formation of the thumb relates specifically to a murderous, explosive quality in the nature of the owner. And it's because the tip of the thumb is traditionally associated with the will. And when the tip is compressed and suppressed, the idea is that the energy builds up and the frustration builds up in the person until they violently explode. And this also could be mapped over into the element system. We say that when there's a compression, when there's an oppression, a limitation, a kind of, you could say, a stifling of the will expression, the fire energy, it's having earth added to it, and the earth puts out the fire, so it suppresses the fire in the person. That's just playing around a little bit with the element system of how to interpret a stubbed thumb. Yeah, and it is only going to represent that kind of potential rage or acting out or explosive energy in a person if the rest of their hand is of a very elementary type. And by that I might mean very coarse skin, very few lines, perhaps extremely square, like a rather brutal and animalistic type of hand. It's the kind of hand that you won't actually find coming to you for a hand reading. So it's very unlikely that people you meet who have these so-called murderous thumbs or clubbed thumbs will have any of these ghastly qualities that are often pinned onto them. Over my 30 years of reading hands, I have met and read for several people with potter's thumbs or clubbed thumbs, if you prefer that term. And I've met others out socially. The moment they hear that I'm a hand reader, I get the question, look at my thumbs. I did once meet somebody who'd murdered, but he was a Selous scout in the Rhodesian army many years ago, and his murderous activity he was terribly tormented about. So it's not as if it was innate in his nature. Most of the people with this thumb formation have quite refined hands elsewhere, or refined enough hands elsewhere to add in the earthy qualities, which are really, I like to overlay. If you think of pottery, it's working with clay, it's working with water, it's working with formation. This could be the orientation, because it's linked also to pottery being called the potter's thumbs, the person who potters about with craft, with the land. These people love the land, they love growing things, they're good with children, they're kind, perhaps because of the sort of stigma attached to the so-called ugliness of their club thumbs, they are rather humble. And you'll find that there are some really beautiful traits of loyalty, perseverance, dependability. They are earthy, conscientious, hardworking, nurturing, tolerant of others. That there's not a lot of bias or opinions about what is right and wrong culturally. They are just very allowing people. They're humble people. And I would say they're deeply sensitive souls too. All the people I've met with this particular formation, this club thumb so-called, are sensitive souls. And therefore, in my humble opinion, that whole theory about the violence and the mayhem that arises from this feature in the person's psyche is obsolete. Unfortunately, a lot of people with stub thumbs or toe thumbs or hammer thumbs, by whatever name, get mercilessly teased at school. And this is making it very difficult for them. But then that would add to that quality of humility that does seem to pervade in the lives of or in the psyche of those with this feature. And then, hard as it is to believe, some people even go and have an operative procedure. Yes, there is such a thing, that lengthens the bone so that one can have this beautifying effect on the thumb. But the agony of that I can't even comprehend. Any kind of operative or wound to the hand is particularly sore. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's little share, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and see you next week. Bye.